I want to talk about growing the economy with Trump's cabinet picks. I want to get your reaction to two of them. Hedge fund executive Scott Besson is going to be the Treasury Secretary or was nominated. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I think again, what you're going to see is there's being on again the nerd committee, the financial services committee. I talk a lot with bankers and those that work in the stock market, and one of the things that their perspective is the uncertainty with some of these regulatory agencies, and that they're continually making new regulations by way of rule. And all that to say is that is they're creating laws by rule, and that creates uncertainty for them as far as how much cash do they have on hand in regards to their loans? What are the regulatory, the next thing that they're going to be hit on in some sort of audit? And so they're always trying to anticipate this continual overreach of these regulatory bodies. And I think what you'll see out of Treasury and some of these other alphabet agencies out of the CFPB is kind of unwinding some of that overreach. You've seen Chopra, during COVID and beyond, really exerting the influence of the CFPB in the financial sector, really beyond its kind of original intent, which is to protect the consumer, not necessarily to overregulate an industry. And so that becomes a problem when you have layer after layer of regulation coming at you. When I'm talking about the banking sector from different directions. And so again, we've got to really streamline the process, give certainty to the banks and to the markets as they go forward. So again, when you look at the banking sector for the United States of America, we have a very dynamic sector. We have small banks, we have those mid-sized regional banks, and of course you have the larger banks for those big institutional investors. And what you're seeing is this squeeze on these mid-sized banks as they're starting to grow. The regulatory burden as they're crossing into that next threshold is crushing. So it's forcing them, in essence, out of business and having to merge into with the larger banks. And that's a problem if you're Joe the plumber, because it's that mid-sized regional bank in your community that is going to be your first lender, whether it's for your small business or for your home. They know you, they know your business and those types of things. You're seeing those types of banks slowly dwindling away. When you look at Europe, you don't have a very dynamic banking sector the way we have in the United States of America. And what we don't want to do is end up like Europe. We want those small, mid-size, those regional banks, and of course the big banks. They all have their space, but this regulatory burden that is really hitting these small to mid-sized banks is crushing. And when you look at their growth rate relative to their cost of operations, it's out of whack.
I'm curious.
I know that was a lot of nerdy. Go ahead.
No, I like it. We're Forbes. You're speaking my language there, so I like it, and I'm very curious to hear your reaction to Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick. He was tapped to serve as Trump's Commerce Secretary. In a report for Forbes, one of my colleagues found that one of Lutnick's former partners called him the most hated guy on Wall Street. What are your thoughts on the pick, and does that concern you?
Well, whether or not he's liked or disliked doesn't mean that he's not going to do a great job for the president. I've had the opportunity to meet with him once. As fate would have it, he was in Nashville with the president at the Bitcoin conference, and we actually, someone had breached security, and so myself and Lutnick and a couple other folks, we actually got trapped in a room together for security reasons for about an hour as the Secret Service was clearing the area and making sure it was safe, which it was. And so I actually had a very pleasant conversation with him. He seemed to be very nice, very knowledgeable. And quite frankly, he speaks Trump's language. He understands what Trump is wanting to accomplish. And so to have that interpersonal relationship, someone who sees Trump's vision, I think is incredibly important as you go forward. Now, look, at the end of the day, you have Congress. There's going to be some checks and balances. And so that's a good thing. But it's important to have those individuals like myself, like Lutnick, or whomever that speak with Trump. They know Trump and they get his vision. Meanwhile, we're going to uphold our oaths to office as well.